find what is happening, for instance, and I'll be very honest, and I stand corrected where I'm wrong. If you look at how the Azimio coalition attempted, because it's not yet over yet, attempted to divide the leadership in the House. They were trying, Raila Amolo Odinga was trying to be magnanimous in trying to accommodate all the coalition partners. Despite the fact that one partner, has the majority, which is also another big question. That is something that we're going to be arguing and talking about it. But when you look at our opponents, only one political party took every position. So what does that tell you? I'm not a prophet, but this is what I'm foreseeing coming. One, the other political parties which are teamed up with UDA will feel disfranchised, and they will start walking away. And one of the things that Kenyans ought to understand is that, there's a rule of law. The Political Parties Act, or the Register of Political Parties, have got a lot of power in that whatever agreement that was reached between the Azimio coalition partners, there are rules and regulations. What am I saying? That you cannot just easily say, just because UDA has made up the government, you can just now walk over there and to be considered as part of UDA. No. The agreement that you signed, and a lot of people don't understand, and this is something that we Maasais are now wiser, because we'll sell our land, and then later on you keep your cows there saying, this is my land. But then you're told, hey,
you signed the right to this land.
So what has happened is that our partners, like my good friend, who is now actually in New York, I've just seen a picture on Twitter, the former governor of Machakos, Alfred Mutua, he signed an agreement. And then also my other friend, Amason Kingi, signed an agreement with the Azimio. Then, what did they decide? And then the other gentleman from northern Kenya, from UDM, signed an agreement with Azimio. In that agreement, they should not tell us that they did not read the fine print. The fine print stated as follows, that if any member wants to leave the coalition, cannot do so until 3 months after the election.
Yep.
And even in 3 months after the elections, that is the only time that they'll give 3 months notice. So in essence,
6
it means
months
that
after the election.
in 6 months' time, whether you like it or not, you are still part and parcel
of the coalition.
All
right.
It all boils down
Are
to
you
the
bound
issue.
to vote always with the coalition?
You see, the coalition can...
Because, for instance...
there are two things. You're right. That's a very good question. And it's a question that can be looked at in all different ways. One, I think there are consequences. Because you're supposed to subscribe to the same school of thoughts. That's the reason why you signed up. So there are consequences. And I think those are the consequences that we need to look at. There's disciplinary action that can be taken, So whether we are bold enough to be able to effect the disciplinary actions, whether we are bold enough so that we can have people who are able to face these people and say, gentlemen, you're guilty. And these are the penalties. You can be penalized.
Okay.
So really, those are the things that we're looking at. But I think the conversation today was, and I had an issue with it, but I said, let me come and let's talk about it.
The role of opposition.
The role of
in
opposition,
Kenyan
because I
politics,
don't
or
think
the role of minority in Kenyan politics.
I don't think we really have an opposition in Kenya. We might theoretically act as if we're an opposition, but in essence, and I want to beseech Kenyans and my colleagues to look at it this way: we have three arms of government. Either we go into a referendum and we decide to go the Westminster way, or we agree that we have three arms of government. We have the person with the sword.
So we have
the person with the pass.
We have a parliament, and this parliament does not have a ruling and opposition. It has majority and minority in parliament.
Yes.
All right? And so it's supposed to operate as an independent unit.
Body, yes.
What is the role or play of the party that is controlling the executive in having its members in parliament?
I think
What is the effect of that?
I think when you put it that way, the party that has got the majority in parliament will always want to ensure that the policies and the wishes or the asks of the executive are fulfilled. You know?
Right.
Because they were sponsored by that political party into parliament.
And they sold
But I think
they
because,
sold a manifesto
you
that
know,
is...
they have a manifesto, yes, but how realistic is that manifesto? You see, the problem I've always had with budgets, and this is what I hope this time around, I can be able to demystify the role of an MCA and the role of a member of parliament and also the role of a senator to the general public. Because ideally, if you have a line item budget where it says we'll spend 6 billion or 60 billions in roads, which roads? So let's go down and say 60 billions in roads. Okay, let's break it down. I want 20 billion in Narok County. Okay, and also when it comes to Narok County, where? You know, I want it in this ward, in this ward, in this ward, in this ward. That is the way we are going to be able to uplift our people.
So, back to my question, Senator, you have this time, the executive is led by UDA.
Yes, it
the
is.
president and the deputy president are UDA. You've got very many members in the National Assembly who are UDA and others who are part of the Kenya Kwanza coalition. What is the link between the executive headed by UDA and the party leader and the members of the UDA and the Kenya Kwanza coalition in the National Assembly?
I think the link is very simple. The Kenya Kwanza coalition and UDA are the ones that sponsored the executive.
Okay.
So, you know, in layman's terms, they would want to ensure that they fulfill the wishes of the president.
By fulfilling the wishes of the president,
Is by making sure that whatever the president wants, passes.
the president gets.
The presidents get. But what about if the president just wants to support one part of the country and leave the other part of the country? Where is their personal conscience?
All right. So where
You see,
should they have that conversation?
You know, I think there are two things that is happening. They should have that conversation with the rest. You know, in the Senate, right now, you had asked a very important question. In the Senate, unlike the National Assembly, we are guided by delegations. Article 123 of the Constitution states as follows, not verbatim, but you can actually look into it, that voting is done by delegations. And there are 47 delegations. Nominated senators do not vote. They have no vote. You know, they are part of a delegation. The head of the delegation is the person who is elected. So what my prayer is that these delegations should know that as a Senate, it is a house of union. It doesn't matter whether you have 100,000 voters in Lamu and 1 million voters in Nairobi or 800,000 voters in Nairobi. There's only one senator and one senator. So when you are discussing issues, you should first of all, you know, put the interest of your political party behind and put the interest of your people ahead. Because when you go to Lamu or you come to Nairobi, there are people who voted for Azimio and there are those people who voted for UDA. So even if the government, even if the majority wants, you still need 24 votes. You need 24 votes for you to pass. Because you have to pass with a simple majority, which is you need 24 delegations for you to pass. You cannot pass, you know, in the National Assembly, it's different. Because in the National Assembly, it could be by voice, it could be by a simple majority of the number who are there. But in the Senate, it is strictly 24 votes minimum.
Yeah.
Just like in the committees, it has to be a minimum of 5 members. So here's what I'm saying. Granted, there could be a situation where, and this is very different because if you go back in history in this country, there was a time when ODM had the majority of members of parliament, but they were not the ones who formed the government. PNU formed the government. So there was a lot of negotiations back and forth. I know what is happening right now in this country. This country is divided into two. Unless you are a radical like I am, when it comes to freedom and liberties, where you push for sometimes and for secession, what you could be praying for is for us to be able to accommodate each other. And as legislators who are tasked with the oversight mandate, what we need to do is to agree to disagree.
Is it really
because
possible?
Eric, if you represent, hypothetically, if you represent Baringo and I represent Narok, what we need to sit down and say, hey, Eric, what are the needs of the people of Baringo? You know, not
irrespective of what the party and all.
Party they have.
But is that possible,
Is it possible?
Senator?
You know
we
what?
have not
Nothing
seen it.
is possible.
We have not seen it. We
Nothing
didn't even
is
see
possible.
it in the 12th Parliament.
Nothing
You told
is
us
possible.
you had your own way of thinking on particular matters, but because of party position and the leadership of the party, you had to vote in a certain way. So is that really possible to say that, all the UDA members of Parliament are going to be independent? Really?
I think now, if you are to ask me, Ledamo Lekena, I think I'm wiser now. I'm not the fool that I used to be. I'm wiser now. And the interest of my people and the people of Kenya supersedes my own interest or the interest of my party. I can tell you that.
Okay.
Without any fear of contradiction.
Let's take a break. We'll continue the conversation shortly. Senator Ledamo Olekina, the senator for Narok County, is here with us in the Situation Room this morning, live on SpiceFM. We're live streaming the show now on YouTube and Facebook. And we're also live on KTN Home. 8:30, let's take this quick break. Senator, I said I'm dressing like this on Sunday and we are meeting. When we go on Sunday, we are going for the African Concours d'Elegance.
Where?
The race course in Nairobi. Yes.
This is it.
This is it. We'll be dressed like this. People from Masa Island, Narok and Kajiado. Mine is going to be a different color, sort of, right?
Very good.
We go like this. Ndu will be dressed like the queen she is, wearing a big hat and all.
I just say she's looking fabulous.
Sindio?
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So all roads are leading
So
to
when she
the
comes
Africa
to
Concours
her,
d'Elegance.
you know,
So she'll be dressed like that. And us guys will be dressed like this with our rungus.
exactly.
Yeah. Vintage as it comes.
I'm telling you.
Vintage as it goes.
There's something
Let's
about
take a quick break. We'll be
man.
back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
I know the sun is out in Nairobi at least. As you tembea, be careful. Manchester United are trying to sign anyone. Watch out where your children are. Please hide yourselves.
Sugar and spice.
I reached a point where suicide things were just going south completely. Something stopped me.
Nairobi.
Are you ready, Nairobi?
Big up Standard Group Radio Maisha.
There's something cooking.
Ladies and gentlemen,
And we're about to serve you with a lot of greatness.
please welcome.
If you've got great taste in music, from superb Kenyan artists, an amazing palate, and into gaming, keep a lookout for an experience to remember from Radio Maisha. If last time was anything to go by,
It's Crispy the Drama Boy.
I'm so excited, it's already weekend.
we're just warming up.
We just getting started.
This time, it's hotter, bigger, better, and it's going to be banging. Kaini Rada, na Radio Maisha, Radio Zaidi ya Radio.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
All right, so looking at cloudy conditions still in Nairobi, highs of 26 and lows of 16. Sunny at 14 in Nakuru, highs of 25. 24 will be the high in Nyeri, where it's cloudy at 14. And we're looking at sunny conditions at 12 in Eldoret, going to highs of 24. The rain is still coming down in Mombasa. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 23. And it's still a rainy morning in Malindi, highs of 29 and lows of 24. Partly sunny conditions at 21 in Kisumu with highs of 29. And we'll see highs of 27 in Kakamega, where it's sunny this morning. 17 and sunny in Kampala, highs of 27. And we'll see highs of 30 in a rainy Dar es Salaam at 24. 18 and mostly sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 26. And we'll see highs of 28 in a rainy Lagos at 24. It's 23 and sunny in Kinshasa. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 23.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice
All right, in
FM.
Traffic Hour proper, that's where we are this morning. Gong Road, really heavy coming into the city, and then you're getting to that Haile Selassie roundabout. You're also having incoming traffic coming from Landis, and then out towards Kamkunji. It's really heavy on Jogo Road. We're looking at Lunga Lunga, Lekoni, Lusaka. Also then joining with what's coming off of Langata Road today. So that's pretty heavy. It's still pretty heavy coming off of Thika Superhighway, as it is Kiambu Road and Muthaiga, then out towards Limuru Road. Heavy traffic here. Ring Road Westlands, looking at James Gishiro, crossing over to Wayaki Way. The Red Hill Link Road not looking too bad right now, so there's an option for you to escape the madness that is coming out of Westlands. Let's talk, guys. Circle back in about half hour. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's keep things moving.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
The conversation continues. Senator Ledama Olekina.
Mornings done.
To say Ledama Olekina. They start with Oledama.
I love it. It's all right. I accept it. Any way you call my name. Yeah.
It doesn't change the meaning.
You know, Shakespeare, what did Shakespeare say? You know, what's in the name?
Well,
that's what's called a rose. It still smells this. You know, so really, it's just a name.
All right. We're talking about the future of opposition politics in Kenya, because Kenyans know opposition.
No, Eric, we need to correct that. We need
and
to...
the future of the... You know why I'm saying we're also saying opposition politics? Because the BBI was attempting to bring this back and saying, you know, the leader of the official opposition in parliament and all those matters and things.
Okay.
So the future of opposition politics in Kenya, the future of knowing that there's a majority and there's a minority. What's the strength of the minority and what's the support of the minority? You have, of course, reminded us the Constitution we have a presidential system. Parliament is parliament, and parliament should focus independently on oversighting the executive, legislating, and also doing what's the other thing? Representing the people. And then the executive does the job of running the executive arm of government. The judiciary, of course, we know that's where you go for justice. Now, with the kind of scenario that we end up seeing, you have a UDA president, you have very many members in the National Assembly, for instance, and in the Senate belonging to UDA and to Kenya Kwanza. Is it really possible for us to see the 13th Parliament being independent and somebody like Kimani Ichung'wah being the leader of the majority can actually stand up and tell the executive, no, what you've brought before the House cannot fly?
No, because that's not how we are made. In Kenya, we are made to become slaves of the executive, particularly if it is executive that has sponsored you in power. We are also made to become slaves, maybe because we want to be able to get so many goodies for our people so that we can also continue, you know, sort of like lining our pocket and amassing a lot of wealth. But I think this could actually be a blessing in disguise. What we recently had from Ruto and his government, where I think they're attempting, and in this time around, anything is possible. You know, if Chebukati would be able to decide that he can be the constitution himself and change the election date for the two counties, that is
Mombasa and
Kakamega, when it is quite explicit in the constitution that the elections shall be held on a particular day, the same day as the election of the president. You know, where you've got to carry out your due diligence to make sure that when you have to abide by the Constitution, nothing is impossible with this new kind
anything
of
is possible.
Anything is possible. And let me tell you why. They could just maybe decide that cabinet secretaries would be appearing before Parliament. And the moment they do that,
the president has already,
he's already said that. And the moment he does that, and I think his advisors ought to advise him properly. The moment he does that, he violates the Constitution. That's number one. Number two, If he does that, he's got also to realize that we now need to have shadow cabinet secretaries, who can also be able to change that. So in a way, through the back door, we'll bring the Westminster kind of parliament, system into this country, where now your argument on the future of the position will now hold water. Because now, when you have cabinet secretaries coming to the floor of the House to answer questions, then by design, there'll be shadow cabinet secretaries.
So
from
are
the
we saying that
opposition.
the opposition, in the way in which it is currently constituted, as it were, then doesn't really work, or it doesn't really provide an adequate opposition in the manner in which it was previously thought of?
What we ought to do is to oversight government. The National Assembly oversights the executive, the national government. The Senate oversights counties. And that is what we're going to be doing. And I have to tell you, some of us were a little bit on the slow, maybe because of the environment back then. But I think now when you hear certain discussions, and because also of our future aspirations, you want to be able to play your role critically so that you can be able to support Kenyans in general. So I'll give you some very practical examples. Today you hear the UDA fraternity arguing that there's no money in this country. And you hear the Deputy President Gachagua saying that, KRA needs to be a friend of businesses.
Yeah.
I agree. KRA needs to be a friend of businesses. But I think also we need to have a conversation. And we need to be able to develop a Gantt chart on the flow of money. I'll use Narrow County as a very good example. If we're serious and we are candid enough, we can be able to account for every single penny that gets into Narrow County. Every single penny. And KRA, once we sit down and have this conversation, in fact, I'm seeking a conversation with 3 bodies, just 3. That is the Tourism Levy Fund, KRA, and myself. Let's sit down. Let me show you how you can be able to ensure that you get all your money in time. Because when you look at Narrow County as an example, we collect a lot of dollars from the Masai Mara Game Reserve. It is ours, and it's never going to leave us. It is ours. It is our land that we set aside. So the national government can never claim it. Mbuseli for Kajiado went, but Narrow County will fight for us, and it remains ours. However, we still have an obligation. I'll give you some very basic mathematics, and I hope you have your calculator there. In Narrow County today, if we have 3 tourists, who end up living in, let's say, Serena. They go to Serena in the Masai Mara Game Reserve for 3 nights. They will pay Narrow County. Each one of them will pay Narrow County $80 a day. So if you do 80 times 3 is how much?
240.
240 times 3 is what?
A lot of money.
No, come on, do your math.
720.
720. Now, 720. These 3 people have paid $720
For 3 days.
For 3 days.
Yep.
To stay in the Mara.
Yeah.
That money belongs to Narrow County government. CAPS, which collect revenue on behalf of Narrow County, will take a maximum of 10%. So how much will they get? Do your math. Say $72.
$72, yes.
All right. So these people, when they go to the Mara, they will spend a minimum of $500 a night. Times 3 night is how much? 1,500. 1,500 times 3 is what?
4,500.
4,500. Take 16% of VAT alone of 4,500. How much does that give you?
Well, okay.
Say $720. So whatever amount that Maro County got, KRA will also be able to get the same amount. And then there's also 2%, which goes to the tourism levy. We'll also be able to get that. If we have that conversation and we sit down, there's absolutely no reason as to why a member of parliament from Narrow County cannot now come and say, gentlemen, in Narrow County, we contribute X amount of money in one source alone to the Kenya revenue. As since this money is now being shared across the whole country, can you please ensure that all the roads in the park are good? All the roads in Narok are also good? Can you ensure that our hospitals have been built? You know,
So
when
what
you
I'm
look at...
hearing you say then is that if that conversation is elevated to that level, it shouldn't be a matter of who is on what side or the other.
It shouldn't.
And so with that example, what we're essentially saying is that it is possible for there to be concert when it comes to legislation, and it's not necessary then to have this opposition.
I think the only time that we can have an opposition is if we decide to change our system of governance. Because then in that case, you know, the minority will always form the opposition. They will be able to check and say, no, this is bullshit. What you said you will do, you did not do. You know. But when we are all together now, I mean, the 12th Parliament, Mutule Kilonzo, Sakaja, myself, Murkomen, we would sit down and agree and say, gentlemen, we are all from different political parties, but can we put the interest of our country ahead? And we did that. We showed. So now, right now, what is happening in Kenya, and I think we need to be candid enough to have this conversation, is that currently governors are busy buying MCAs so that they can be able to control who becomes a speaker. A wise governor shouldn't need to do that. He should just let the MCAs, and even wiser MCAs should not allow that, because, I mean, what is in money? You are given 100,000, 200,000, you become a slave of the governor.
So you allow them to run the show.
You allow them to run. No, listen. But let us now practice this independence of institutions.
So, is there a need for the parties and the coalitions to first of all even be holding the meetings that we saw them holding this weekend?
Absolutely, there is.
What is the need of that?
It is important.
Because when you meet as Azimio la Umoja One Kenya
Yes.
coalition, and then the other guys meet as Kenya Kwanza, we saw, you're being told this is our thinking in the house.
It is good.
When you go and meet in the house, then you have
It is
already
good. No.
You have positions taken.
Those positions are necessary. What you do is that you bring them, you argue, you debate. Okay, you agree to disagree. But ultimately, what should be driving you is that you are an elected member of parliament. Your job is to make sure that you represent your people. You know, we are soon having a by-election. And maybe even many by-elections.
Yeah.
In fact, if IEBC would listen to me, they don't really like me a lot. But,
No.
you know, it's always good to like your critic, you know. Person who criticizes you should actually bring them much closer. You know, so that you get to know, because they will always have something to prove.
You're their chief whip.
You know, if they would listen to me, I would think they should hold off on the Bungoma by-election. They wait until the president unveil his cabinet, because I'm sure people like in Duale, people like in Murkomen, you know, other people also, maybe who are in parliament, might decide to join the executive. So there'll be a lot of by-elections. So just wait. There's no rush. Okay? So even if it is next year, I know Chebukati has got, I think, 3 months to go. Someone else can be able to run those elections. It doesn't have to be Chebukati. But I think now what Kenyans need to do is that they need to start asking questions, because the cost of unga has gone up. The cost of fuel has skyrocketed. The cost of life, in essence, has gone up the sky. So the sense that we need to live, the time that God is kind enough to give us to live in this world, we need to care about our people.
What should Kenyans do
I think
so
Kenyans
they can get
now,
more value from their elected leaders across the
Kenyans
board?
now need to forget about these bribes. And I'm very grateful. Let me tell you, I'm very, very grateful for the people of Nairobi County. You know, and this is why I will serve them diligently. Because they never asked me for a penny. There's not a single day where people came in and asked me to give them money. They just elected me. You know, they believed in me. God blessed me.
Did you give money even without being asked?
No. But if I call you to come to my home, I'll spend money. I'll slaughter a few bulls.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes because
Provide
I've inconvenienced you, I'll pay the transport. I'll facilitate for the transport. But it's not that I go everywhere and I say, shikai. No, that's BS. What is there? Kenyans, you've asked a very good question. What do we need to do? And I want to speak to the people in Bungoma. you are now going to be electing your new senator. I will actually go to Bungoma and have a conversation with the youth, because my purpose in this position that I now hold is to ensure that our people, our women and girls, men, young boys, also can be able to rise up to become senators like Ledama. They too can also be able to serve this country. So how do you serve this country? You have to be candid. You have to be fearless. You also have to be caring. You need to care about your brother. You must be your brother's keeper. You must make sure that if Ledama can have a toilet that he can flush it, even a child in Bungoma can also be able to have the same toilet. The kind of life that our people in the rural areas live. Right now, you don't see us politicians running up and down. But during the election period, we are there every day. We even go and enter their rooms.
Right.
We even sleep there. We go eat with them in their supermarket, in their kiosks. We drink their tea. But immediately we have what we want, we take off. So I think right now, all of us should also ask ourselves various questions. The reason why our children can go to good school is because of the poor Kenyans who vote for us, who are jobless. So everything we do, and I do hope that the current administration or the current occupier of State House can be able to allow criticism and positive criticism, because we are all different. The way I see life is not the way you see life, Eric. It's different.
You have to be various angles.
We have to be various angles. So going back to your question about Parliament, how should Parliament operate, is that I know my role. And I'll borrow the word opposition because I've also used it, because that's what Kenyans know, and I agree with you. But in hindsight, the more you think about it, the more you realize that really we shouldn't have an opposition. What we should have is a body that controls the past that it has, to ensure that that past is distributed, what is contained inside is distributed equitably.
So do I hear you saying, as somebody who was firmly on the other side, firmly so, and it was visible, that then there is an opportunity to work with the government, the executive, work with?
Let me try to break it down for you. My role as a member of Parliament is to ensure that I oversight the executive. I'm not going to be working with the executive. I'm going to be oversighting everything they say they do. I'm going to be checking it, scrutinizing it, correcting it when it is wrong, either agreeing to support what they want or disagreeing.
With a view to make things work, or with a view to just be a critic?
No.
I think that's my question.
With a view to make things work. Because it is not about Ledama. It has never been about Ledama. It's about the 45 or 50 million Kenyans. Because as a senator, now I'm not only a senator for Narrow County, but I'm a senator for the whole of Kenya. So really, some of the things that I'm going to be doing, and I'll be very honest with you, and I'm doing it now, is that, Article 226, subsection 5 of the Constitution states as follows, that if a bearer of an office misappropriates funds, that person is responsible whether in or out of office. So my role is to make sure that whatever the Auditor General is, we have governors who left office, who have been there for 10 years. Some of them are even our colleagues in the Senate now. Just because you've come to the Senate doesn't mean that you don't account for what you spent. So really, for now, we are going to be sitting down with our accountants. We are going to be sitting down, creating other Gantt charts. And some of them are very interesting, and I think KRA would love to have this conversation with me.
Yes.
Because sometimes when you sit down in the middle of the night and you're thinking about Kenyans, what comes to mind, it really sometimes shocks me.
Why?
Because if you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief. Most county governments, most businesses, or rather most contracts that were awarded to companies of their friends, MCAs, their family members and stuff like that. That's very simple to follow. And I don't know why no one has ever bothered to follow. But this time around, Eric, I can tell you, we will create that Gantt chart. And even if we cannot be able to overturn things because they have already happened, I believe one of the people that I'm going to be sitting down with is going to have an interest in following up and saying, hey, okay, there's a relationship between here and here.
And this.
Okay, tell me, it's all right. That relationship, you already did it. But now tell me, you got 20B, but I haven't had my share of the 20B. Can I now have a share of my 20B?
Carry.
Everyone is going to be running helter-skelter. And I think if we are bold enough to be able to do that,
it's doable.
If we are bold enough, then we will not be saying we are broke as a country. We will not be saying money has been taken away from the exchequer. You know, when I hear these argument that, we've gone to the treasury and we've only found 973 million, the question is, do you have a cabinet secretary in charge of treasury or not? Is that cabinet secretary still there?
How much are you hoping to find?
Okay? It's not even about a matter of how much you're hoping to find. But has that money been accounted for?
Yeah.
You know, can it be traced? Let me tell you, Eric, if I send you 5,000 shillings right now through your M-Pesa, and you go and withdraw that money, I can follow that money.
Yep.
And you can also follow where the source of my 5,000 came from.
That's true.
It's very simple.
That's true.
You know, so there's nothing that doesn't have
There's nothing that doesn't have a trace. Final question in 3 minutes as we conclude the conversation today. Who's the majority in the National Assembly?
To be honest with you, from the coalition agreement that we have, and we all have to be desperate enough to respect the rule of law. The Azimio coalition has a majority in the National Assembly. In the Senate, Kenya Kwanza has a majority. Because we cannot argue and say that Omutata belongs to either Kenya Kwanza or the Azimio coalition. He might decides to vote with
whichever way he wants, but he has not signed into
But he hasn't signed. Okay. So in a way, I think we are 50, I think Kenya Kwanza might have an upper hand there in the Senate. But in the National Assembly, there might be other questions that might be asked.
Like
what do the standing orders say in terms of the party vis-a-vis the coalition party? The second question which might be asked, and I think this is a question that the Speaker and the legal department in Parliament will have to be very, very, very independent in responding to that question, is whether does it matter if Azimio did not field any candidate as Azimio? Is a definition of the coalition. Because Azimio, what these people don't understand is that Azimio is a political party, and also Azimio is a coalition of parties. If you look at Section 2A of the Political Parties Act, which we amended, it states that a political party can either be a political party or it can be a coalition of parties. Okay, so that 2A is what they're going to look into seriously and looking at the standing orders to be able to demystify that.
Do they have the numbers, though?
Who?
Azimio. In the National Assembly.
Azimio has the numbers.
The
question is, and I think this is where you need to be very clear with, the question is, will the Benjamins dictate which side the river flows?
What's your guess?
I think the Benjamins will always dictate. But in this case, when it comes to the issue of, if it boils down to a pen and paper, I think Azimio will still have the day because they will have, the coalition will be there. But to what effect? Finally, what I can predict is that my brothers, my aptis, my brothers from northern Kenya, who are, pastoralists like I am, who are not used to being dictated upon, will soon be finding their way back to Azimio because I don't think they can be able to stomach being dictated upon. And I think you've got to give credit where credit is due. And, sometimes we're disorganized, and maybe it works on our part, but the other people might be organized. But anyway, Eric, thank you for having me.
Senator Leda Molekina, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you. We want to have you joining us more and more. Well, let's see what committees of the Senate you sit on and what roles you'll be playing as a member of the Senate. Like you said, it's not an opposition or minority. You're a senator.
Yes.
And this time you represent the people of Narok County who elected you, but also you're a senator for the Republic of Kenya.
Absolutely.
Asante sana for joining
Karibu.
us.
Asante.
Keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. A very good morning to you. 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is Newswire. I am Stephanie Wangari. The Central Bank of Kenya says it has issued licenses to 10 out of 288 digital credit providers. The bank has asked those who have not applied for a license to cease and desist from conducting digital credit business. Further, it says that other applicants are at different stages in the process. Now, 349 members of the National Assembly who took oath of office 2 weeks ago are set to converge at the Safari Park Hotel for an induction retreat. The induction will help newly elected members familiarize themselves with their role in the 13th Parliament. National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula, who will be chairing the session, said it will be a great opportunity for members of Parliament to acquaint themselves with their mandate. On the other hand, Central Bank of Kenya Governor Patrick Njoroge will paint a picture of the country's economy and also state the explorable opportunities that will aid in spurring economic growth. On the other hand, Chief Justice Martha Koome will address the principle of separation of powers and the relationship between the legislature and the judiciary. Now, President William Ruto has arrived in London yesterday evening to attend the state funeral of Queen Elizabeth II. The funeral service at Westminster Abbey is expected to begin at 11 a.m. Kenyan time. Some 2,000 people are expected to attend the ceremony, including 500 presidents, prime ministers, and foreign royals from around the world. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says he is yet to move to his official residence of the Deputy President in Karen. Speaking to KTN News yesterday night, Gachagua said that moving to his current residence is a difficult decision to make.
I've been around here. It's a very nostalgic decision for me. Just to walk away from a home where we have lived for 24 years and go and start a new home. My boss, President William Ruto, has already moved to State House, and official residence of the Deputy President is ready. But I'm yet to come to terms with the new situation. I still feel better to sleep here and wake up here because 24 years is a long time. And a home is a home. You really get used to your home. You like your bed. You like the way you wake up. You like the environment, so I'm still here trying to figure out. In any case, there's no hurry.
Still speaking during the interview, Gachagua called for patience from Kenyans as their Kenya Kwanza administration mitigates the tough economic situation being witnessed in the country.
I must tell the people of Kenyans that the situation is looking quite bad. There is no money in the treasury at all, and the little that we are collecting goes to salaries, and you have to keep the country going. So we need to do a lot to boost production, and we must spend a lot of time, effort, and money on agriculture. That's really the way to go. And I can tell the people of Kenya that in another 2-3 months, they will start seeing now things picking up. Already we have 1.4 million bags of fertilizer ready for the short rains, and that will give a big boost. And if we increase production, the cost of food will go down. So people will start getting the benefit within a very, very short time.
Gachagua has promised that Kenyans will start seeing changes in the first 90 days of their leadership.
We have been talking to KRA, and we have told them that we must agree on how to change our tax regime. We must be friendly to the taxpayers so that we collect more voluntarily. Let us not criminalize tax collection, because if you really are so hard on the people who pay tax. And when they see the tax collectors, they close their shops, then what are you doing to yourself? So progressively, we are going to have an increase in revenue collection. We are going to increase production of our agricultural commodities. And in another 90 days to 100 days, the economy will start, feeling the effect of good management.
That's your news at the top of the hour. My name is Stephanie Wangari.
Traffic flowing in from most parts of the city this morning still continues. We're looking at traffic hour on Jogo Road, still into the CBD, coming off of the Thika Superhighway, still doing the thing today. And we're also looking at traffic coming out of Westlands, still pretty heavy. We'll keep an eye on things through the morning. It looks like it'll die down after a short while. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter, trying to keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It is
the only way to start your day.
How are you doing? We're live streaming the show now on SpiceFM KE, on YouTube and Facebook, as well as being live on SpiceFM around the country. We have the day's proverb before we continue the conversation, where we want to open up the phone lines so that you can participate in this national discourse. The proverb is from Egypt. One does not run to reach success. One does not move to spoil it. One does not run to reach success. One does not move to spoil it.
Yep. This one I agreed from the very beginning, from the get-go.
You agreed with the pharaohs?
Yes, I did. Yes, I do.
Okay. Headline of the Standard today. Tell us.
The headline of the Standard today is Azimio poll packed critical in wireless supremacy battle. That's what we are looking at. That, they still have a thing to play here. The Speaker is faced with a moment on who holds the majority in Parliament. At the heart of the contention is whether Azimio is a coalition or not, as Kenya Kwanza maintains it has the numbers in the National Assembly and the Senate. So it's going into that conversation. And I'm sitting here asking myself, from what we've heard, from what we are hearing, everybody saying, oh, let's come together and work together. Let's make sure that the people of Kenya are forefront when it comes to the things or the decisions that we make. I'm asking myself then, how absolutely necessary is an opposition?
Look, what is opposition?
Opposition makes up the people or the leaders who are not on the side of the ruling, mostly in this case, the party.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
There are those who are not in the ruling party
that
still make up part of government.
Okay.
Okay?
And what do they normally do?
What do you mean? In what sense?
When they now become opposition, so what?
Or what does an opposition do?
Is their vote half?
Their vote still counts.
So their vote still counts?
Absolutely.
So the vote of an opposition leader is one. The vote of a leader in the majority is one. Those two are two votes.
Yes.
Okay.
The assumption is that they're in the minority.
Okay.
Yes. The assumption is that they're in the minority and that they constantly play kind of like a poking role in the side of the government to say, oh, no, hold on, you can't do this because of 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
That is what the assumption is.
Okay.
In different systems of government.
So they'll raise issues, they will raise concerns if a bill is brought in and it has the side of the majority, assuming that the side of the majority is also aligned to the side of, the party that the president comes from. So if the president, let's say, okay, here, that the majority, and this is just for purpose of this conversation, let's not open up a Pandora's box.
Please.
The majority in the National Assembly is Kenya Kwanza. The president is Kenya Kwanza. They met in Naivasha. The president was taking them through, this is our agenda, blah, 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 blah. So he brings a bill to parliament. The majority will want to go with it gung-ho. No major amendments. Minority will be expected to scrutinize it with a fine-tooth comb and pick out areas and say, no, this thing needs to be amended here and here and here. It may have issues. They may not be able to gather the numbers to bring down the bill, but they'll be able to raise concerns.
Right.
In some cases, they may be able to convince even those in the majority that, yes, we can take in one of these two amendments. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And thereby we have an opposition playing an opposition role.
Yeah.
Is that important or is that not? Have we answered your question together?
Both of us. Well, sure. I mean, look, but then also you run the risk. This is the thing I hear people say, that you run the risk of folks opposing for the sake of opposing.
Yeah.
Opposing for the sake of opposition, and not necessarily because you find anything. Look, and where all of this is coming from, in my mind, where it has changed or maybe has taken on a different form and feel, is that if we have people who are in the minority, as it were, or people who are in the would-be opposition, the thing continues to be, well, look, can't we just work together? After all, I have been voted because I've been elected because the will of the people is paramount to anything else, right?
Yes.
And if everybody is saying that, and what we are coming to work for is for this same will of the people, can't we just agree to disagree? Then who is opposing what? Who's checking whom?
But
And
they check one
need to have
another.
one? And why is it?
Agreeing to disagree is not necessarily a bad thing, is it?
No, that's what I'm saying. It is a good thing. So it looks as though we're all in this one swimming pool together.
But not on everything.
Not necessarily. But of course, look, my friend, if I see you going wrong, whether I am opposing you or whether I am in the same boat as you, I have a responsibility to call out and say, look, there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
Now, are we saying that it is only the purview of those who are in the opposition to do that?
No.
No. And so that's the thing. Is it absolutely necessary if we're all agreeing anyway? We're all agreeing, okay, guys, see, we are saying we're doing this thing for the good of the people. Which is what I'm hearing the calls are for right now.
But listen, even when you say that, we are not saying that, you'll agree on everything.
I would not apply any kind of authenticity.
The argument here, from what I heard from, for example, Senator Ledamo Lekina, was when we're in the House, we are looking at this bill and we are seeing what works, what doesn't work. And if there's something that doesn't work, all of us can agree that this doesn't work, so strike it out or amend it. Okay? What works, we all agree that it works. We don't have to say it doesn't work just because we sit on the other side of the aisle, all right? We see this in U.S. Congress. So this is a presidential system, blah, 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 like the American system, blah, 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 blah. It's very, very critical for Joe Biden to make sure that the Democrats are a majority in both houses. Why? Because he is able to speak better to the Democrats for them to pass his agenda. But then the Republicans are going to have their say as well. They will come in and say, no, on this particular one, no. And that's why they argue that, having a majority of one and the other on either house, especially the upper house, if the upper house goes the opposition, that is the party that is not in White House, it works best. Because if you have the Republicans in the upper house, then whatever is passed by this junior house here, if it goes up there, it'll be questioned. And in some cases, there are those moderate Republicans who will look at sense and they will vote on sense. There are those hardcore Republicans who will say, it's who? Joe Biden.
Out.
Damara.
Whether it's sensible or not.
Yes. In the case of Kenya now, we are actually starting to experience this kind of thing. When the leader of the Kenya Kwanza coalition, President William Ruto, says, you know what, we as Kenya Kwanza leaders, we want you to understand what we mean. So when you bring the bill to Parliament, you can, vote and you can interrogate it from this point that we've brought it in. But you're not saying that, don't shoot it down. You're just saying if there's any issue that we have missed, You can include it in the lawmaking process. You can amend this bill if you feel the drafters of the bill did not capture what we've discussed here, what we've said. This is our vision.
Then you can do something about it.
Yeah, if you can enrich it because of also engaging with the people on the ground, and they've said, you know what, on this particular issue, this is how to go. Do so by all means, but work with us. Yesterday, the Deputy President was interviewed live from his current residence by Sophia Wanuna, and Sophia is here with us now. Sophia, good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Eric, lovely dude.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. Well, half asleep, but good.
Why you half asleep?
Because it was a late night.
Yeah, but
I was
we watched
asking
it.
Brian, man.
We all watched it. Are you saying the whole country is half asleep?
No.
Because the whole country watched you interviewing Rigathi Gachagua.
But after
What are
that,
you
it's not
talking
like
about?
then you guys went to sleep immediately after, right?
And what were you left doing?
Working. I mean, I was not at home. Yes.
You don't live in Muranga, you live in Nairobi.
Oh, please.
It's coming from Karen and going home and sleeping.
I think when I have nights.
You don't live in Muranga, wow.
At in Muranga, right? Anyway, but Niko Salama.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Very interesting conversation you had there with the Deputy President.
Was it?
Yes, in many ways. And he answered very many questions. In many ways, he was answering some were his own questions, but yeah, he answered many questions as well. Just segueing from this conversation you're having, you asked him about the strength of Kenya Kwanza versus Azimio la Umoja One Kenya in the House. And of course, the same script that we're seeing even on social media was repeated. Azimio is a political party, it's not a coalition. Kenya Kwanza is a coalition. But either way, anyway, we have numbers, and there are people who have crossed over to us because they had initially been arm twisted to say that they're on the other side, blah, 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 blah. Ndu is asking, we have a parliament that should be playing a role of oversight, legislation, representation.
Yeah.
Not playing the role of barking, when the president asks them to bark. Did you feel the Deputy President speaking to this issue that the Parliament should be independent anyway?
I think when you talk about politics, and to the example I heard you also speak about the US example, right? You see, Parliament is government. You have three arms of government. You have the executive, the Parliament, and then you have the judiciary.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, there's no, you can't not extricate yourself from that situation. Even when members, I remember Raila was telling the Azimio PG that you cannot be invited to be in government or being swayed or some carrot dangled. You're already in government by virtue of being an MP or a senator. So that's one. But at the end of the day, you have to remember, it shouldn't be either or, that either work with government or go oppose government.
Right. Yes.
I mean, that's who do you help with that, right? It's ideally it's about for president and the executive. Of course, they came together, worked with these members to gain power, get into office. They are now president, deputy president, and they have this coalition. A lot of what they must do, in fact, you look at their manifesto, relies on a legislative agenda that these folks will push.
Yep.
And that's why it was so important that Ruto skipped the induction of governors in Mombasa for this
To
PG.
spend time with his...
Exactly. For 2 days and sat down a whole day, 8 hours, with these folks that brought in, whether it's from the health sector, economy, to take members through. He even was joking at the end of the day, I'm sorry, some of you thought will come enjoyment, but imekuwa kama CBC. But it was important that they read from the same script from the get-go, that this is what they promised, and he realizes and knows he cannot do it without these members. And so these members need to understand, so they're just on the same page. So for me, it's not an either or, that if there's opposition, because in our context, it's majority and minority, right? So the idea is that at the end of the day, how all should approach this is for the good of Wanjiko.
Yada, yada, yada.
Right?
But do you think that is what the president was actually telling them? That, you know what, we just want you to understand where we are coming from at the executive. When you come to parliament, we are ready for you to challenge us, Do you think the president was actually looking at any of those members and saying, if so-and-so, for example, just says, I am not voting on this because I don't agree with a certain clause that has not been amended, the president would be like, it's okay, man. I understand where you're coming from. I took you to Naivasha for the... It's okay.
I see you.
Do you think that's what he had in mind?
No, the thing is, there's the reality of politics. And we also cannot bury our heads in the sand and imagine there's just always this pragmatism that always prevails. When you want something, you push for it. There are those who will not agree with you, there are those who will. And I think what I will say from the get-go that he made very clear is that he wants an opposition, which the deputy president repeated yesterday, to hold them to account. And even during the speech at the inauguration, we want let people criticize us. So for me, that is at least a good thing to the extent of it opens up that space for those who will stand true to whether they were elected and, serve their people as they were, or those who will go and decide government, the person who does whatever I'm called upon to do. So,
see, when the president used the word opposition,
right,
that is where the red flag is for me. If the president said, I would like a parliament that oversights the work that I do, I would be seeing a completely different story from when he says, I would like an opposition. They are in the opposition. I would like an opposition that checks me. When all the same time he says, I have the majority.
So it doesn't really matter. What it is.
He is basically saying, you guys can be talking all you talk.
But I have the numbers.
Ongeeni, mko na uhuru wa kuongea, but you see, I have the numbers, so I'll always carry the day. And when he goes and meets with his members in Naivasha, he's basically telling them, guys, we are here, we have the numbers, we shall be carrying the day.
This is our agenda.
So we shall push through no matter what.
Yes.
Valid point. And that's the thing, that at the end of the day, you also have to remember, for a politician of the stature of William Ruto and what we have come to see, and for many, whether surprised, whatever, is whatever happens between now and the next 5 years, it's not lost on him that he can do bullish sort of things and get away with it. Because at the very least, Kenyans have showed if there's certain things they don't agree with you, they will show you the door, or they will just not, So he will have to temper that it is true. He can get away with his very nice, smooth talking to the politicians, get them along to do whatever. But if all of that doesn't all go well for Wanjiku, if it's not serving the people and fulfilling what they promise, it will come back to bite him.
Look, this is the thing that we hear. There's a lot of concessionary talk that is going on on the sides that be the would-be opposition.
Yeah.
Wherever you want to look at it. Like, okay, look, ours may not necessarily be to just keep the executive in check or to just oversight. At the end of the day, what we are doing is we're putting representation above all of this. Representation means that if it is good for the people of the country, then this is what we are really going for. And if it just so happens that whatever the executive and his people are saying, and if it is good for Wanjiku, as you say, then we are going to go ahead with it. So it almost seems to me as though certain tools have already been put down. That there's the understanding that, look, at the end of the day, is it going to help the people of Kenya? Then maybe we're not necessarily going to poke holes as the opposition or coming from the minority stand that we're going to be all right with it. If at the end of the day, if it is good for the people that I as a leader represent, and the people who elected me to this spot, then I'm going to go with it.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily just going to oppose for the sake of opposition, but I'm just going to go with it because you know what? At the end of the day, it's much easier.
This is good policy. Yeah, this is good law.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. Politics of ideology as opposed to special purpose vehicle that our political parties have so commonly been known for. But what's interesting is what you're seeing play out in the National Assembly with the leadership positions. There's a sense that when you cross over to the Senate, they almost are hoping, the ODM members, that the argument being canvassed and pushed by Kenya Kwanza to the extent that Azimio is a coalition party. It only had one candidate, president, and all these others were, right? So to the extent of majority, it's obvious because UDA as a party alongside coalition of parties has more members. However, this was what I found interesting. You saw Raila Odinga when speaking to the members of Azimio saying, you know what, we are a coalition of parties. We need to even give positions to the smaller parties, because that's how you build consensus and stick together. However, within ODM, they're very upset because you see over in Senate, Wiper, I think, has a whip,
Deputy leader is a Wiper and whip is Wiper. And so it's ODM Wiper. Jubilee gets one.
And they're not happy about that. So they're...
Who's not happy? ODM?
Yes. We will not say it out loud because then they don't want
But they
to appear.
have the leadership in both.
They want everything because they believe they earned it. And so if this argument by KK stands and is upheld in the National Assembly, then they will pretty much be saying, those with the numbers carry the day. So
then
ODM
the
has the
ODM
numbers.
is then the second majority.
Yes, and then
It should form the leadership of all.
The Senate.
Makes sense. Even in the National Assembly.
Well, National Assembly, they're being...
Well, are they not the third largest? After, if you look at UDA,
Yes.
the second largest
Yes,
was
they are.
ODM.
They are.
So if Speaker Wetangula says, I recognize this one as coalition, Kenya Kwanza. I recognize this one as party, and
Why
this
are you
party is
saying
not.
it like that?
Is it up to him to recognize?
And I see Azimio as a party has no member in this house. The only party that has a member in this house that is not in the Kenya Kwanza coalition is ODM, that has the second.
Good point she
largest.
makes. Is it him to recognize? The constitution is clear about majority and minority. So for him, it's because there's they've both come and said, our majorities are this and this. Of course, you can't have two majorities. So it's that interpretation of, from my understanding, from law, what I have, the documents is gotten from the Registrar
of Political Parties. Absolutely.
This is the position.
Yeah. It's, to me, it's you can't just cook it up in your head in terms of what you want.
It will move to court,
It's going to have to come from something.
He has to make a ruling as a speaker
Yeah.
and say, so from the foregoing, he'll do the whole thing. Wetangula has not actually done this kind of thing in a while. So he'll enjoy, I'm sure, standing there and communication from the chair and reading for us for 15 minutes or so, or more, 45. And then come to, in conclusion, therefore.
Yeah.
In this house, the majority comprises this. The minority is this. Now, ODM then can now come up say, if we are the minority, we take all the leadership positions. How did the Kenya Kwanza share out the positions? If I look at Kimani Ichung'wah, UDA, Silvana Sosoro, UDA, Naomi Wako, UDA, right? This is leader, chief whip, and deputy chief whip in the National Assembly. Aaron Cheruiyot, leader in the Senate.
UDA.
Deputy whip Tabitha Karanja. Chief whip Boni Khalwale. Stephen Lelegwe, deputy chief whip. So UDA has taken everything.
And that's in line with the argument they're, putting out there that it's a UDA.
Well, yes, but then UDA can also come and argue, as Kenya Kwanza, we have the speaker. We sponsored a speaker together who is not a UDA member in the Senate and in the National Assembly.
Yep. But to the extent of the bigger party with the numbers, UDA.
My goodness. This is going to be an interesting one to play out.
It will.
When you were having a conversation with the Deputy President last night, he went to that argument. I mean, we are a coalition. We are registered as a coalition. These guys are a party. They're registered as a party.
Yeah. And they have no single member. So, yeah.
It still does. I mean, to me, it looks like there's a numbers game being played out here. There is then also who will take the day, because you register your might on both houses. You register your might in terms of that. And then that means when it comes to decisions that you make moving forward legislatively, then obviously means that you carry the day.
Yeah.
But then the question is, do you really see a situation? A speaker who is making the decision, coming obviously with allegiance to one house, making a decision that will go in favor of the other side, regardless of these numbers that we're talking about?
Kwanzaa, his first order of business.
Let's be realistic.
To say thank you to Kenya Kwanzaa for electing him is ruling against them.
And then going and telling them, okay, actually, you know what? According to the registrar of political parties, they actually see that Azimio is in the majority, so we have no choice but to give it to them.
But I think you have to remember, guys, at the end of the day, this whole thing about majority, minority, politically speaking, Kenya Kwanzaa has the numbers, right? Those who are officially in Azimio, signed, pack, whatever, have moved. It's in the public domain. So even if, fine, let's say there's this speaker and comes and says, unaligned, impartial, Azimio has the numbers as to the paperwork I have from the registrar. However,
it will always be a majority of a minority.
No, in 3 months, then they can officially exit, and then it flips. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
either way.
It could actually be a very good thing for Moses Wetangula if he rules in favor of Azimio.
Azimio, exactly.
Because then it endears him to the whole house.
Yes.
And he can say, you guys are the majority. It's okay.
Take it. Because we know.
Opio and I will be the majority leader. But will you ever get anything, even in committees?
Zero.
Going your way.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you've put it very well, because that's he has to really just come, at least at the beginning, to appear to be not a man who, because these are the folks that helped me get here, that now everything that comes, I only see it through one lens.
Let's take a break at this point. Kenya's biggest conversation at past. Sophia Wanuna is the boss at KTN News. Last night, she was interviewing the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. First live interview by the Deputy President by Mr. Rigathi Gachagua since he became His Excellency Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. And very many things that he said, and we want to just look at some of those things. Sophia's main takeaways from that interview. Showmax.com is the place to go if you want to watch very, very good content. Local productions, African productions, global productions, good series, good movies, good documentaries. But this local production called County 49 is the one.
Fictional county, Bwatele County, however, it's got real stories about what's going on in a, normal, bustling county and what they're demanding of their leaders. County 49 for 760 shillings. You can watch this and other great programming on Showmax every day, all month.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If I look at the Premier League table, Manchester City is on top. Arsenal, number 2 in the table. Absolutely. How did Brentford get to number 3 in the Premier League table? They beat us like Burkenge.
Sugar and spice.
What's your love language, French?
My love language is I want to be left alone.
What can't you compromise on?
Quality time and acts of service. Words of affirmation tutapata hata kanisani.
We do this
11 to 3 p.m. Monday to Friday. DJ Absolute and
Yolanda Mulwa
on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Spice up your life.
If I look at the Premier League table, Manchester City is on top. Arsenal, number 2 in the table. Absolutely. How did Brentford get to number 3 in the Premier League table? They beat us like Burkenge.
Sugar and spice.
What's your love language, French?
All right, so looking at still partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 16. It's 18 and sunny in Nakuru, highs of 25 and lows of 12. 14 will be the low in a sunny Nyeri at 17. We'll see highs of 24 in a mostly sunny Eldoret at 18. It's raining in Mombasa still at 26. We'll go to highs of 28 and 29 will be the high in a rainy Malindi at 26. The sun is out in Kisumu at 24, highs of 29, and 27 will be the high in a mostly sunny Kakamega at 24. Partly sunny conditions at 21 in Kampala. It'll go to highs of 27, and it's raining at 27 in Dar es Salaam. Rotterdam with highs of 30. We'll see lows of 23. 20 and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 26 and lows of 10. And rain showers at 24 in Lagos. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 24. Kinshasa's cloudy at 24, highs of 32. Looking out into Beijing Monday evening, it's 26 and sunny. We'll see highs of 27 and 8 degrees and mostly cloudy in Paris, highs of 18, mostly cloudy at 12 in London, highs of 17. And Sunday night is clear in New York. Coming into Monday, we'll see highs of 30 and lows of 20.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, coming out of traffic hour, looking a little bit better on Jogger Road, sparse traffic now. However, whatever is going on Landis Road has spilled way over onto Lusaka. And we're looking at that junction of Langata Road towards Lusaka Road, out towards Landis. It's an absolute hot mess. And it started really early today, not quite sure what sparked that off, but it looks like it's going to be some time before that is gotten rid of. Coming off of the thicker superhighway, traffic is still heavy, at least from the drive-in junction, and that heads out towards the Pangani underpass. Better on Kiambu Road, a little bit better on Limuru Road, and coming into the city from Westlands, James Gishuru is still a little bit packed as you get towards Wayaki Way, but we should get out of that with no trouble ahead. Through the morning, talk to us, SpiceFM, KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life.
"25 minutes to 10, the conversation continues. Eric Latif, Nduoko, and Sophia Wanuna looking back into last night's interview with Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Sophia, there's a question you asked him about the constitution of government, and I felt that he just dug himself into a rabbit hole when he talked about how the government is going to be divided. When he said that Mount Kenya people, as a leader of Mount Kenya, I want to assure the people that we are going to get the number of seats in this government commensurate with the strength of our votes. And when he said their vote is almost 50%, below 50%, but they're going to get
43,
something
47,
that's commensurate
50.
with 43%. Yeah. I was like, okay. And he gave the examples. Kimani Ichung'wah, leader of majority in the National Assembly, gave the example of the support given to Governor Anne Waiguru. The deputy president is from Mount Kenya. And then he went on, and I was like, okay, what are you saying? What are you saying?
And he said government is big.
Yes.
It's going to happen.
So what should we expect from North? So the North Rift is going to get 56% or 50% thereabout of government?
Yeah.
Is that going to have an issue with the issue of the face of Kenya and all?
Yeah. And that's why, even after he said that, I asked, what about those who didn't vote for you? Because, there are people watching and they're hearing you talking about, for the votes you brought, you shall be rewarded adequately.
Yeah.
And then they're like, huh? We didn't vote. Yeah, what does that mean for us? So, and it was the interesting balancing act, which they must do. Because even for the president, because at the time, for all intents and purposes, it was more of a co-presidency. This bromance went into cabinet, like sharing half at the beginning.
Yep.
And he, brought a lot of people from his side. He cannot do that in this one. And even for the deputy president, they truly have to live up to the face of the nation. And if they don't, they will be called out for it. I mean, we're here waiting to see. Everyone is watching. And he was very clear about defending it, which, he had a good point, the political class, because already, even with all the conversations around the potential CSs, you can already see Kenyans talking about, I hope you're not going to now get an MP elected, pluck them from there, take them to cabinet, and we have several by-elections, or so-and-so who was there before, whatever. So this is one big one to watch. And that is why they're clear about we're not going to rush it, because it's not one of those you can do and then send a statement to clarify. You have to get it right.
From the beginning.
Yes.
I see a tricky one here. Roles have been reversed in the 2013,
Yes.
William Ruto was deputy president. He was eyeing the presidency in future and
Right.
looking at how to go with his support base.
Mhm.
This time, Rigathi Gachagua is in that position where William Ruto was, and that's why he is looking at solidifying his position as the
Mount
Mount
Kenya.
Kenya kingpin.
Correct.
And that's why you're saying, as your leader,
Mhm.
I've assured that we are getting. William Ruto this time has to play the national game, and he has to do
Correct.
what Kenyatta had to do in 2013. Okay, you guy, you've got it. How many are you bringing? Okay, now me, I have to look at the whole country and see how to divide it.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one, this one, for Ruto.
It is. However, for purposes of 2027, he will, to an extent, want to still ensure Mount Kenya is
Happy.
not displeased, happy, is comfortable. So you want to play the national game, but remember there was a huge support that got you to power that you want to still bank on going into 27. So while else it will not be as we saw it play out in 2013, but it will be, you rightfully said it, yeah, it's the game has changed. For Rigathi Gachagua, which you were saying, he's the leader, and I put to him, but really, who brought the vote? Was it you or the president? Because he's a president who has, been endearing himself over time and has that support. And then now Rigathi Gachagua in this period will be looking as a deputy president going forward, harboring perhaps presidential ambition as well, to then cement himself as the what we call kingpin.
Yep.
It will be very interesting times ahead, politically speaking.
Indeed, I think there's a lot of power play. There's a lot of power, moves at play here.
Yeah.
Even as subtle as they may be, but that is clear that in as much as we are talking about a collective, inclusive, working for the people government, there is still that individual, desire to be cemented, as you say, in one place, because the future is always in the horizon.
Yeah.
The next 5 years is always right there for everybody. Like, what are we going to do? And to say that people are only working in the here and now, I think would be myopic because everybody's already looking forward in terms of what are we going to be able to do later.
Right.
What am I going to do today? And we saw this at the campaign. What am I going to do today that's going to cement my position as president, as deputy president? And then now that here you are, what am I going to do? What decisions am I going to make today that will then cement my position in the next course of things? So in as much as we're saying, okay, right, I'm going to I'm going to appoint Sophia as my CS for this, I'm going to appoint Eric as my CS for this.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily doing it so that the wheels of development can continue turning in Kenya properly. In as much as that might be a consequence of my action, I think over and above of that, there is another
play
here, and it's the long game that's being okay.
Yeah.
What am I going to be able to do to make sure that that is the case? And am I ready to bulldoze, or rather, am I clearing the way? And whether it is individuals, whether it is coalitions, whether it is parties that are in the way of me getting there, I have no problem removing them, subtly or otherwise.
Yeah.
And I think we cannot run away from that. Part of me really believes that President Ruto wants to get work done. And he wants to get things done. That he's beholden to his promise that he made to people at whatever level. However he's going to do that, he will do it. But at the same time, he's also cementing a position for the future.
So he's got to balance the two.
He has to balance the two, but one of them, and the one that is right here as opposed to the one that's in the 4 vision, is getting things working. And getting them working now.
Yeah.
Because you can talk about the future, but there's these very same people for whom you need to get an economy running.
Yeah.
For whom you need to get food on the table, for whom you need to have their children in school where they are comfortable. It is them who are going to make sure that, because at the end of the day, it's them you went to.
Exactly.
Right? So I think he holds those two positions where, all right, okay, I've got these 5 years within which I have to do this, but at the same time, do I want longevity in my reign? And that also has to happen.
Yeah.
And
the thing is, he's a workaholic. The discipline to focus and really go at it is what he has working for him. So as to what he does with that energy, vibrancy, and the capacity to really just focus. And if it's this, if you remember even during the campaigns, all manner of stops in one day. Even the final one, when you usually have the final grand one rally. He had the grand one, then still went to others.
Yeah.
So he has his work cut out for him, the deputy president as well. And it's really going to be, as you said, that to deliver, because the beauty is, and they've opened that door and publicly said it, of course, even if they didn't, it would still happen, open to criticism. That whatever you do, we will either call you out for it or we will ask,
we'll hold you
said
accountable
this.
for everything.
Yeah?
We'll hold you accountable for everything.
For everything.
There's a
as
nice,
it should be.
A nice narrative that is rolling out after the deputy president was declared president-elect and then he was sworn in to become president. He's a workaholic. He works very hard. It has caught on very nicely. And I think those who, because I strongly feel that it was actually well choreographed to come out into the public. Now it's landed. Every time you're thinking of Ruto, you're thinking, this guy works hard, man.
It's called conditioning.
Yeah,
the thing that has happened to you is called conditioning.
This guy
But
works
is it
hard.
conditioning? Do you say
Because
to the
this-
extent
Eric
of
has been
it's
conditioned.
being,
This-
it's
this
being
narrative-
scripted, or is it true?
it
Are
true?
you questioning the...
It has been scripted to come out as true.
As
It could be a representation of the truth.
Yes.
Right.
But it has been scripted to come out now to take center stage. If you think about William Ruto as deputy president, William Ruto during the Tanga Tanga campaigns and all, there was no issue of he's a workaholic. Until after his victory was actually declared, that's when, but you see, this guy works hard. This guy is organized. This guy. And now that's top and center of everything about William Ruto. It's working very well for him because it's sort of like calming people down and people feeling, okay,
With all these problems,
whatever
he
he
will
tells
figure
me,
it out.
whatever he tells me, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt that he's a workaholic. He's waking up very early in the morning. He's keeping his ADC busy and on all those things. So he's gonna get it done. Perfect. I believe it is scripted. I believe it started somewhere.
The
It
fellows
has
are
spread-
geniuses, aren't they?
It has spread
But the
very
thing is,
well,
I hear-
and it is working very well.
I hear you, Eric, and I think on such things, you can script hard work. Bottom line, it's about it being seen. So, whereas they're riding on it, but I don't think it is far from the reality. Because you look at, he has run
I
for
don't think so.
president first time.
Yep.
Here he is. To the extent that, because that was important, to have a conversation with legislators around what you intend to do.
Yeah.
So I had to come and tell them, guys, we're here.
Yeah.
We
gonna
promised this. A lot of what we promised relies on you guys doing this, because
Yeah.
otherwise guys would come in, oh, we're MPs, we're senators,
Yeah.
and moving on. However, it is, so you can see in terms of, so I would not at this point take that away from him. We'll keep, of course, assessing, but so far, to the extent of, campaign, the organization of it, getting where he has, these parties. At the beginning, you remember when he talked about, we don't need to form a coalition or work with anybody to get elected. But however, they managed to work together. Here we are today.
Yep.
So to purely say this is just a narrative,
No, I'm not saying purely it's a narrative. It's not like they're spinning
exactly.
untruths.
Yeah.
What they have done, and this is very good for communication and branding, is you've taken this good attribute, you've made sure that you highlight it, you mainstream it, and it works well for you because then you're able to get people's confidence.
Yes.
All right? So they are basically, it's true, William Ruto works hard, even before the campaigns. Those who have interacted with people who have worked closely with him, we know he works very hard. But never has it been said the way it's being said now.
No, yeah.
That this guy, he works really hard. This guy. So, what you're basically being told is trust him.
Yeah.
He's got your back.
Perfect. Exactly.
Perfect.
Things are tough, but right now he's working.
He's working.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. True.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Many things also that the deputy president told you yesterday. What stood out for you mostly out of...
That's a difficult
How long was
one.
it? Was it 1.5 hours?
1.5. Oh, gosh. I mean...
Apart from him telling you that you were unfair to him during the presidential debate.
Yeah, but then he was like, yeah, but integrity issues are important. However, because see, at the time, his issue was we should have talked about the issues. And even after the debate, we spoke, and he really was like, you guys were very unfair. You went on and on and on, but
But he's the
Kenyans
one.
won the issues. But I sat back and I'm like, I hear you. Granted, perhaps would have had more time for the economy and all of these things. However, these are not non-issues. In fact, if, Eric, you're going to employ someone to your house to work as this and this, the children, food, everything, you want to first ensure that this is a person that whatever resources, whatever shopping you're bringing into the house, everything is taken care
managed,
of. Yeah, so that it is not enough for you. You can be brilliant with ideas of how we can do things, but who are you?
It's
That
background
then
check.
come exactly. And
You can
that's
cook well for my children.
Yeah.
Fine, you went to
But you could be a
whatever.
psychopath.
Yeah, but
exactly. So, yeah.
And also, I think, because you'll get that from Rigathi Gachagua, you may also get that from the president. They took that tangent themselves. You're not the one who asked, what is state capture? He started the conversation on state capture.
Exactly.
So if you've brought state capture here and you've talked about...
We can't now run away and be like, whoa.
Well, now
Let's
that you've
talk
brought
issues.
it in, now that you've brought it in, how about we have a conversation about it?
And you're the one who's come and said, the real candidate in this election is not Raila, it is Uhuru.
With a whole
All right,
Kenya
with
to
an entire
go.
Kenya to go with it. You brought it. You can't then say that I didn't ask you about the agenda on education.
Correct.
You didn't give me the time. You took off. I asked you the question, you answered your own. It's one of those.
It's one of those. Because the thing we were told about debates and any interview, anyway, it has to also have that organic sense to it. Because imagine he brings out a Makanya, I'm like, no, stop. We now want to talk about transport. You can't. You still have to flow with it. Even when you have a different plan until, but hey, I honestly don't know if I have an answer to that question. I still need to have not fully even internalized it all.
There were very
At
many
some
things.
point, there were so many
Very
things.
many things that were discussed.
But what
The
was
issue of-
interesting is police officers reaching out.
Yes.
I mean, I found that, and you see, for them is to say, I think where they're at that point, 3 of them, and saying,
Who wrote in to you.
Yeah, and called. So that was like, wow, okay.
What are the questions that the police wanted you to ask the deputy president?
So it was the one of the expressway that,
We have very many police officers who've been seconded to the Moja expressway.
The exits and entries, and they're there throughout. Apparently, when they, like for SGR, when they're there, there's an allowance given, lunch, whatever. This one's 0. Okay? But the other thing that, of course, the uniform was another issue. But the need to reshuffle the heads, those that have been in certain
senior positions
service for a long time, because then now they've become like whole, So those are some of their concerns, and they're saying, we work, we love our jobs, but at the end of the day, you have people where it's like catalysm. They're there, they've done things a certain way for a long time, and they can get away with it. So with this fresh and new team in office, can we jig things up, rejig even at the level of the management of the police service?
What was his answer?
He said they will engage, is the overall. I mean, he said a lot. But overall, what he was saying is these issues, they're well versed with them. They know there have been numerous issues. And he kept referencing to his days as DO, that I've been in uniform. I know all of these issues. And for 10 years, the police officers have been neglected. So we will have, as we have seen the president engage at the sectors, we will have that conversation so that we can come with the best way forward.
Okay.
But the uniform might go because of that, that PCA.
Yeah, that's an issue. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Do you think, just looking as though, some of the things he says about being in charge, do you think that he would be readily acceptable of, the question has always been, so what exactly does a deputy do? What do the deputy governors do? One of the big issues for President William Ruto when he was deputy president was, well, you know what?
If my boss hasn't sent me,
I am here.
What am I doing? I'm just here. When you're ready for me,
I'll
here.
come out. Yeah.
So does he have a
expectation
of what he will be doing in government, or is he just waiting for direction from the president?
That's a really good question, because you saw it informed the campaigns to the extent of the candidates, the presidential candidates, saying that for Raila it was Martha will also double up as minister.
The slayer of the dragon of corruption.
And justice
right?
and constitutional affairs.
Right.
Yes.
And even at the time, the president now was unveiling Rigathi as his running mate at the time, spoke to these enhanced roles and clear ones. So, for sure, as much as even yesterday when I told him, oh, you're in charge now, he's like, no, I'm still not in charge. The president, I'm here, but we are in consulting. So you want to always be like, you're second in command, always very clear in your mind, in your everything you say, that there's the boss. I am who I am. However, he is a politician, and he's thinking, as we were saying, you're working, but there's this other game at play. So what's going to be interesting to see now is, especially outside of, because that's not just the president, the deputy president, is now you have this chief minister. Right? Who also is coming with, there's a docket, but also some supervisory roles. Because ideally, what Matiang'i was for Uhuru is what Ruto should have been for Uhuru. The reason there was a Matiang'i and chief minister is because of this fallout within. Yeah. So you create this and you take us back to, was it Kibaki administration, where then you have all of this and people fighting for space. The vice president, wants this. The prime minister is here. So this will be interesting to see how it's managed. Because even you saw Kenyans on Twitter, I think, talking about, okay, so where will he be seated?
What's his office going to be?
Yeah. Will it be at Annex? Will it be, and, at a Harambee House, second? So we'll wait to see. But it's definitely one that Rigathi Gachagua, the deputy president, is not a pushover.
That's what,
You remember even just getting him as the running mate. That his colleagues, there was this whole contestation. Kindiki is the person. But it is said, and we've heard this from credible sources, that he also put his foot down. He said, "This is what I'm bringing to the table. It is
this
me
is what I bring."
Or
now here you are. You have been elected. You've marshaled votes for this ticket, and then there's this other guy. All he's coming through is because he got promised something. You expect that Rigathi Gachagua will sit there and say, "All right, so." The chief minister has the role of coordination of government, takes over an entire building called Annex, and then I just take some office on some second floor of Harambee House.
Annex is the deputy president's office. That's first. That would not happen. But you remember that photo that speaks to what you're saying from Naivasha on the red carpet. You have the
Who's
president
on the red carpet?
And Mudavadi is on the red carpet. And on the grass.
Gachagua is jostling for space. Don't step on grass. There is the deputy president on the grass. It's going to be an interesting one, that one, on how even the president himself balances it out.
Correct.
Because he understands the value. And from what we've seen, Moses Wetangula, we promised, all right, here you go.
And he delivered. You have to give it to him.
We promised, here you go.
Yeah.
Musalia Mudavadi, we promised, here you go. Here is the deputy president. We work together. So how do you feel that you have sufficient power and authority over and above these others? Interesting days ahead.
Indeed.
Very.
Interesting days ahead.
And we are all here for it.
Of course. Waiting for the unveiling of the cabinet when the president comes back. Waiting for now to see the House take over leadership and all, and they start working. All of this. Sophia, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much. And why is CT? Because I feel I'm seated on his seat.
CT.
The great CT.
CT is chilling, relaxing, supervising the...
He's a chief minister.
Yes.
He's now Charles.
Ooh.
Yeah. You see, he's King Charles the Third.
All right.
And so during this period, he, of course, had to take some time.
Okay.
But he'll be back.
All righty.
Have you watched County 47 on Showmax?
It's County
you
49.
Should. County 49 on Showmax.
I mean, watch 47.
Very, very good production. It's a series, 4 episodes out already. Lovely. It's about Botella County. is fictional county where there's a governor.
Oh.
And the governor and the deputy governor, they're elected by the people. Then the governor does some things that are contrary to the law, especially
Nice.
on
Should
integrity
watch that.
and leadership.
Sounds interesting.
He's taken to court.
Yeah.
Deputy governor takes over. But then people come, and a certain group that is being called a terrorist group takes the the new governor, and wamekamata yeye mateka. Things. Yes, things. Watch it on Showmax.
I shall.
Oh, Showmax.com for as little as
760 shillings per month. That's
and
great.
you don't just get County
Not
49.
just County 49.
You also get
other
other things. Like, for example, if you were watching yesterday, you could have watched the KTN News interview between Sophia Wanuna and Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua live on Showmax. So it has live TV channels and it has video on demand channels. Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. We'll be back tomorrow morning, God willing, Tuesday the 20th. Guy, and I say 20th, I just remember KRA. Tuesday the 20th of September 2022. Have a lovely day, folks.
Good
Very
day.
good morning. It's 10 a.m.
Sugar and spice and everything I spice it.
Spice up your life